True and false round. True or false? Canadian governments have created, localized government have created a campaign for the US to be the 51st state. Marina.
True.
You think it's true? The localized Canadian government are doing a campaign to get them to join. Okay.
I think it's beautifully petty, and I hope it's true.
I'm gonna go false just in case Marina's wrong. One of us has got to be right.
That's the spirit.
Hedging me bets.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Feel the love. It's false. It's just a satire campaign. I'm sorry, Marina. I know. True or false? Elon's son, who was in the Oval Office, in the many things that he said, he swore at Trump. True or false? Graham?
True. True.
Marina?
He told him to shut the F up.
True. And we've all wanted to say it.
We've all wanted to say it. And it turns out it's true. It's a 4-year-old that does the task for us.
Yeah.
Unelected bureaucrats. Question number 3. Young US women, 55% of them will not date the opposite party. So if they're Democrat, they won't date Republican and vice versa. Marina.
True. True.
Why do you think it's true?
I think it's true, and I think it'd be mostly led by Democrat women going, fuck you, Republican men.
Graham?
Did you say 57%?
55.
55.
So they will not date the opposite.
I would have thought it'd be more than that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm going with that. Yeah, fair enough. True.
It is true. Don't date the opposite
Blame
side.
them.
We always bring that up when you or Gemma come on.
Do you know what? My relationship, my choice.
Question 4. There's a Brexit bonus for Valentine's Day. Roses are cheaper. True or false? Graham?
False.
How come?
Because I got some roses and they weren't cheap.
Ooh, who's the lucky lady?
Oh, Catherine,
Marina?
the partner.
Fair enough. I'm going to say hedge bets and go true and say, is it something to do with the fact that maybe delays in the supply chain mean that when they arrive, they're in really shit quality and that they are then have to be lower price?
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
It's actually, it's false. There is no
So
Brexit bonus.
Did they last as long?
No, you were right, Graham. I was talking shit.
My God.
I know. It's joy, isn't it?
Brexit bonus.
Brexit just keeps on winning. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Sunday Roast. There's no introduction from me this week, but we do have a lovely co-host and a lovely guest. Graham, please can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Graham Hughes, the first person to visit every country in the world without flying, and I currently run the Politics Social channel here on YouTube. Check it out.
Marina, please can you introduce yourself?
That was a good one. Okay, I'm Marina Purkiss. It's such a wanky term, but political commentator by sort of in my spare time, and then I work in tech full-time. That's my full-time gig. You'll probably know me from just ranting on social media about what was the Conservatives and now is basically just anyone. Labour, Trump, Musk. Seem to have got quite a bit of traction though, 500,000 odd followers, and I have a podcast called The Trawl, and if you ever need a bit of levity, because let's be honest, it's bleak out there, come and join us over at The Trawl. We're a community of over 1 million listeners in the UK who basically just all look at the world and go,
wow,
what the fuck?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. 1 million.
Over.
Influencer. Wow. How does that feel? I've got to ask.
Do you know what? It just misery loves company, Alex. Look, the only reason I think we are doing as well as we are is because people come to us like, there are so many great podcasts out there like The Rest is Politics and news agents and whatever, and they're quite intense. And I think people come to us and we're like, how can I describe it? It's like the political friends you never had. It's like chatting with your friends about politics. We don't get into the deep diving and the real geopolitical nuance, but we just talk about it in a way that's more about feeling. And don't get me wrong, there's analysis there as well, but also lots of piss taking, because you've got to laugh. You've got to laugh at what's going on.
Marina, along with the question about like dating someone with a different political background, would you have someone on the show? I mean, you famously took down Jacob Rees-Mogg, didn't you? Would you have someone like that on the show just so you could rip them apart?
So on the Trawl Meets, we basically meet someone once a month. And we did Graham, we had, and it didn't go well, we had on Dan Hodges.
You woke, Dan? Are you
I am
woke?
certainly not woke, sadly.
You're asleep. What do you make of the revolving door between press and government?
I think it's a good thing.
Sorry, this is supposed to be quick fire, but what? How is it a good thing?
What is it a good thing?
How can you expect our media to hold the government to account if there is a revolving door between them?
So Dan Hodges, the editor of the Mail on Sunday. This is the guy who was behind all those headlines. You know, it was Currygate for about 12 days running.
Yes.
He's also, oh my goodness, his anti-Palestine, like pro-genocide, let's be honest, stance is disgusting.
I love ambition. The thought of a wealthy, wonderful, thriving place with well-paid jobs, casinos, nightlife. I mean, it sounds very appealing to me.
And actually, what it ended up being was a real awful conversation, as in, like, it was just, he's very, he was like a slippery eel. He was, quite obnoxious, actually. And we won't be doing that again. So we invite on people that we like we find interesting, like Gary Lineker, like Carol Vorderman, like Gary's Economics, like basically really, really good, interesting people like that.
Good.
Are we heading to World War III then?
Yes.
You know, as it's Valentine's Day, I thought I'd start off with something fucking cheerful. But, I mean, we were trying to pick topics before we came on. And literally the night before Valentine's Day, an explosive drone slams into the casing around the Chernobyl reactor that almost blew up. And then you've got, I don't know if anyone watched last night, but it was Question Time. On Question Time, they had the GB News presenter suggesting we should be seeking out peace when you've got a lunatic like that dropping bombs. And then...
This is direct appeasement of someone who has moved into a sovereign country, seized its territory, sought to seize the entire country. And it's as if, he'd come to the UK, he'd occupied Kent, Surrey, Sussex. And then somebody else like Donald Trump comes along and says, yeah, fine, guys, just live with that. No trouble at all. These people who go on and on about sovereignty, say they're the defenders of sovereignty. When it actually comes to the crunch, they will sell anyone down the river.
He's whacked British people on British soil and dumped chemical weapons. And we've got Brits advocating for peace. That. Appeasement.
Peace.
Well, I mean, I've made the analogy in 2 videos this week, just on the appeasement. Go on, Graham.
Yeah. No, we're never going to have peace with Putin. We are in, we're in 1938. We're basically, you got a Neville Chamberlain in Donald Trump, basically waving a piece of paper saying peace in our times. We let Hitler have half of Czechoslovakia and the Sudetenland and thought, he'll stop then. He'll go, that's enough for me. And we know that Putin has territorial ambitions over Moldova. We know that he would love to take back a portion of the Baltic states, the Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. He'll take the Russian-speaking parts, which is ridiculous. It's like Britain invading Canada because people speak English there. Do you know what I mean? It makes no sense. But you have to stand up to bullies. You have to stand up to them, and appeasing them has never worked in history, and it's not going to start working now.
Yeah.
Sort of how you deal with a psychopath, Marina?
I don't think you can. And this is why when people say, well, actually, in fact, Richard Tice being schooled by Julia Hartley-Brewer.
People, if Russia stopped fighting, if Russia wanted to end the war, if Russia stopped fighting, Russia could just stop fighting. There wouldn't be a war. No one would be killed.
And that would be
great.
Our
job done.
Yeah,
but why doesn't the West take that to Russia?
Ultimately, maybe that's what the negotiations are.
Which part of Britain would you give away if we were invaded and you wanted to negotiate peace?
None at all.
So we wouldn't give away any of Britain.
But
it's okay to give away a bit of Ukraine.
Hang on, it's not us giving it away, Julia. Right? It's Ukraine, and
Ukraine doesn't want to give it away.
Of course it doesn't. But ultimately, as everybody said, it is Zelensky's decision. But ultimately, we've got to stop killing people.
If we were invaded and our close allies in NATO, like the United States, basically supported us for a bit, but gave us just enough support so we could actually not lose, but we'd not enough to win. Yeah. And after 3 years, whoever was president of the United States said,
from which to try and negotiate a solution.
So at which point Donald Trump, says, oh, well, we're going to have a negotiation, but we're going to let the Russians, whoever invaded us, keep part of territory. Just clarify. Just how much of British territory would you be willing to give away in those negotiations?
On Northern Ireland, chap. Ultimately, in Northern Ireland, there was a negotiation to stop the killing. It involved horrendous compromises that lots of people didn't want to make.
Didn't give away territory.
We stopped killing people.
Didn't give away territory.
That's also
We
correct.
didn't give away territory to
But
invading force. That's a ridiculous analogy.
No, it's a completely valid analogy. Wars.
Sorry, who invaded Northern Ireland?
Wars stop when people stop killing people.
No, wars stop. Wars stop when one side is defeated.
Look.
Sorry, have you heard of the Second World War?
Yes.
Did we negotiate the ending of the Second World War?
Have you heard of there are lots of other wars where ultimately people negotiate a peace. Otherwise, you just carry on. How long are we going to carry on with this?
Falklands.
Yeah, Falklands we won.
Oh, yeah. Well, we didn't just negotiate with Argentina and give them some of the Falklands.
No, but there's
Why
plenty
not?
of other...
Why not? That would have stopped the war, Richard. Why not?
Look, ultimately, we won that war, but there are other wars where it's a negotiated settlement.
Because it's not our problem. Except it will be our problem when Vladimir Putin thinks he can take any territory of any country in Europe that he darn well pleases.
And that's why the negotiation is about what is the strength of what is put in place to stop him going any further. That's why I've always said...
What's going to stop him going any further? We've just said you can take Crimea, you can take the Donbass.
That's the whole point of the negotiation. Is Ukraine going to join NATO and therefore benefit from the Article 4? Well, that's the point of the negotiation.
Well, there's no negotiation, is it? Is there? There's no negotiation. The Secretary of State
clearly
already
don't
said...
understand how President Trump works. He starts out in one position. That doesn't mean that's where he settles. The whole point of a negotiation, you set out positions and then you work out where you're going to finish.
You know what you don't do in a negotiation? You set out a position where you've given the other side everything that they want.
And that's not what I suspect.
It's literally what they've done in the last 24 hours.
I completely disagree.
I just thought Reform cared about national borders.
We do absolutely care about national borders and sovereignty.
Not all of them. Okay.
But equally, we don't want to carry on killing people. We're not killing people. But ultimately, somehow, the war has got to stop. It's gone on for 3 years. How long do we keep it going? A decade? 2 decades?
How long would you fight for this country?
Until I'm dead.
Well, exactly. That's what the Ukrainian people would ideally do if they were given support.
But
that war could have been won a long time ago if we'd given support.
Yeah, but there are lots of Ukrainian people who would like to find a way to end this war, including the president.
Let's not use up all our time on this. I'm disappointed in people who believe in national security.
I'm trying to explore ways to stop killing people.
Well, tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people. Then we can solve that problem like that.
On Talk TV, I never thought I'd be on the side of Julia, but she absolutely nailed him because he was quite sympathetic. I think because he sounded very much like a Putin apologist, saying, "Well, you know, we need to find peace. This can't carry on." And it's a great clip if you can go and seek it out. She basically said, "Well, how much of Britain would you give away?" You know, and he's like, "Well, they've been fighting for a long time. So how long would it take before you gave up?" You know, it really pushed him on it. But I think what we have seen in history is that when you're coming from the angle that Putin is, there is no negotiating. Like there is, it's like when people had to fight for their rights, whether it's women or, you know, for civil liberties, you're trying to get them from people who do not want a middle ground. So there has to be a very strong position. And sometimes, you know, civil disobedience, unrest, whatever, rebellion, you just can't negotiate with these people.
You make me think of that Churchill movie where he does the quotes, when will the lesson be learned? When will you learn that dictators can't be wooed and you cannot negotiate with a tiger when your head is in its mouth?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've never actually checked to verify if he actually said that, but that was so poignant.
Gary Oldman said it in the movie, so that'll do.
That'll do. Yeah, Gary Oldman. We'll just attribute it to Gary Oldman.
As Gary Oldman famously said.
I'll take it. It's a great point.
It's a great line.
Gary, Winston, whatever. Same.
So it makes you then go, why? It's really weird because from a historian's perspective, it's always seemed to be in the modern era that the right wing are the ones that are always up for the fight and willing not to negotiate and are willing to send the troops in. And our right wing, I mean, you mentioned Richard Tyson. Julia Hart-Brewer, I was gobsmacked that she came from that position. But that's like traditional.
Yeah, it's also Richard Tice. How many times have you heard the word sovereignty fall out of that twat's mouth? Right, sovereignty. Yep. He is. It's like it's the most important thing to him. It was the same for all of the Brexit lot, right? And yet they are now trying to protect or side with or sympathise with someone who has literally gone into another country, invaded another sovereign country, and and killed their people and wants to claim their territory. And he's going, well, maybe, you know, well, like it's the backbending mental gymnastics. I don't know how these people make it through the day.
But they do. And they do it well, and they keep on growing, and you keep dealing with people in the street. I went to the farmers' protest, and I still had people there going, Reform had embedded people in there that weren't invited. It was quite interesting. Farage wasn't invited to come on stage, and he had to come in through the side, and then he barricaded himself into the Red Line because people really hate him. Like, farmers aren't stupid; they can see the damage of Brexit, and yet that people are still gravitating towards them, even though they're weak. They're snowflakes, as that young man once called Nigel Farage.
I'm here with Nigel Farage, Britain's biggest wank state.
Oh, right. Yeah. I said photograph, and all you can be is abusive. Never mind.
Abusive? Oh, come on, Snowflake, relax. I'll leave him alone, mate. Leave him alone. Oh, sorry if I offended you, sir. My bad. He was being kind to you. Oh, he's so polite, isn't he?
They're not up for the fight. And they seem to not understand. There's this sort of, there was a Tory MP that did it as well last week. They seem not to understand that if you go and allow him to do that in Ukraine, he'll probably go and start taking lumps out of other countries, and then it's eventually us. It almost reminds me of that Martin Niemöller quote from Nazi Germany. Go on, Marina, I can see you want to jump in.
There's so many things. I've got, honestly, I'm having a right week of it at the moment. I'm finding it really difficult, but I'm trying to get inside the head of why people think the way they do. And I think there's some people, and some of them in my own friendship group, all they care about is their immediate. It's my immediate, it's my friendship group, it's my family. I just don't give a shit. I haven't got the compassion, I haven't got the emotional bandwidth, whatever. They don't care. And so it's a not them problem. In fact, I posted something on Twitter and it got like over 50,000 likes. It was basically like, actually, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to find it and then I'm going to read it out because it's really strong.
Go on, Graham.
I understand this. I mean, it is a lot, and there's people who are writing on my channel saying like, I'm going to have to take a bit of a pause from this. And this is what the Trump agenda is. It's shock and awe. It's to put people into a state of such terror that there's so many things to talk about. 200 executive orders. Sorry, 2,000. How many? It was 200.
No, in hundreds.
Yeah. Executive orders coming out in the space of a few weeks. One thing, then the next thing, it was plastic straws this week, because they're really important. Transgender people not using the right, using the correct toilet. That was really important. But that's also along with getting rid of US aid, which is actively killing babies now across developing nations. When the medicine is sitting there in a warehouse a couple of miles away from the hospital, they can't get into the warehouse. It's been shuttered because US aid's been taken away by Elon Musk. The richest man in the world has literally slapped food out of the mouths of starving orphans all over the world. And when you look at it that way, you're like, oh my God. And I can see why people withdraw. I can see why people go, this is too much.
Graham, I saw one lady, she was a Brit. She wrote, I would love to see what Elon Musk would do with our NHS. I bet he'd fix it in months. And oh my God, even just that it literally makes me want to vomit a little bit. Part of me is jealous. I'm a bit jealous of her, Jen, or whatever her name is. Jen. I'm jealous of the naivety. I'm jealous of the trust, the ignorance. One person said, because I tweeted about, Elon Musk being in the Oval Office with his son, his toddler on his shoulders, and said, can you imagine the shit a woman would get if she brought her toddler on her shoulders into the Oval Office? I'm not even going to get into the power play here and how basically what that made Trump look like. The fact that it was Elon Musk in there, not wearing suit as he should be, wearing a cap, standing above the president and doing more of the talking, right? But imagine if that, and wearing a baseball cap, imagine if that had been a woman. Like, that would have been just, it would have been all of the trolling, all of that's not professional. But one person actually said, well, Elon's in there, he's doing it for free.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
And this is what I mean. I think they've just put in an order for fucking Tesla armored cars. Vehicles, yeah.
But he's gone into the records. He's gone into the financial records of millions of Americans at the Treasury Department, and they've stolen all the records. It's like it's the biggest data heist in human history. Okay. And he's got data about people's social security, Medicaid, Medicare, veterans affairs, the VA stuff in America. So all these soldiers who fought against the Nazis and were still alive, just about. They weren't all wiped out by COVID, although the right wing tried to wipe them all out during COVID. And the few people alive to warn us about what's happening right now. They're going, we're going to take away your measly pension, your measly war pension, because the richest man in the world decrees it.
because also he's just not satisfied. Graham, like, can you imagine like how all kinds of broken that you have got to be, that you are worth over $400 billion and you still can't find peace of that. You still need more, even if that means, like you said, taking money out of the mouths of sick children. We've got women dying in childbirth now. We have got food aid. We've got like grains, like just will go to waste. We've got children that will now die of diarrhea. Yep. All of this preventable, but because this rich man cannot be satiated, we just have to all let it happen.
Do you know, that makes me just continue to think that they keep doing these things and they can't see the bigger picture. And the reason I say that is China's just going to be going,
I know,
we're going to put the aid in.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to like us, which is one of their ultimate goals. That's why they always stick on the Olympics. That's why they're working on football, because eventually I think they want a team that will win it. And they're just going, okay, we'll step into the gap. We'll provide the aid. We'll get the kudos, and then we'll get the contracts. And maybe, and it's so naive.
Not just that, Alex. Even their stance on Gaza. The Chinese came out and actually said that Trump's stance, his whole position of I'm just going to take Gaza, I'm going to own it, I'm going to make it the Riviera of the Middle East. China have even come out and said that is unacceptable. North Korea came out and decried it as well. So we're already going to see that this influence. US is going to lose its global influence, which has always tried to uphold. China's going to swoop in. It's already starting, and lo and behold, that's exactly what Russia and
I think America deserves to lose its influence. And one of the good things that might come out of all this is that Europe emerges stronger and more united, politically, militarily, as a think about the trade that we could do. We don't need America to make our freaking movies. Why is it every time we go, oh, we've got a great idea for a movie, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, James Bond. We go, oh, we could make it ourselves, I suppose. And we probably will film it here with British actors and a British director. But I know, let's go to America to get the money to make it. And I'm like, why? Why do we keep doing this? We got rich people here. Fund the British film industry. Let's make our own freaking movies for once. Jesus, I read don't make them all depressing kitchen sink dramas. No one wants to see that shit.
A really funny tweet. It was something like, only in movies does America save the world. In real life, it's the world that has to save America.
That's very true. That's very true. But Marina, we've talked on our channel about quiet quitting America. Just when you have the choice between Starbucks and Caffè Nero, go to Caffè Nero. It's a British company rather than going to the American company. We're obviously going out on YouTube here, so that's an American company. It's owned by Google. But so it's not something that we can do with absolutely everything, but I don't think it has to be everything. I just think it has to be enough for a few CEOs in America to see their profits just not go up for a quarter, maybe go down by 0.01%, and they will freak the fuck out because that's.
I've got to give us a bit of credit with our infiltration skills in terms of actors, because boy, do our English actors take American roles.
I know.
It's fucking hilarious.
I think so. Like 90% of like lead roles that are American characters are actually played by Brits.
Really?
Yeah.
It must be something like that.
There was a show called The Americans in which it was like a Russian agent pretends to be American, but they're actually Welsh. And the guy from Walking Dead who plays the Southern cop, he's the guy from Notting Actually or whatever it's called.
Not Love Actually.
Love Actually, that's the one.
Notting Actually. That sounds great.
Very posh, British guy. No, but we're good at doing accents because there's so many different accents around the UK.
Also, because we grew up on a diet of US stuff. I grew up watching things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Cheers and Roseanne, so we grew up with an American accent. I did.
Yeah.
Are we about to hear your American accent? Are we going to get exclusive?
After a few wines, I can do my New York accent.
Oh, really?
From watching My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, it's awful though. It's just I like to do it.
Oh, that's such a good movie with Joe Pesci as well.
Yeah.
I can do a good Southern drawl accent.
Go.
No, that's the most you're going to get. It'll be over wines, not public consumption.
Not going out on the internet to be replayed again and again.
You realize I now need to do a promo, don't you?
Yeah.
If you remember, you'll be able to see this exclusive footage.
One of the things that I've sort of noticed this week is it's been going on for some time, but this the knots. I think Marina sort of talked about this a little bit with Richard Tice, but the knots that these people on the right are tying themselves in, trying to justify what Trump is doing, even though it goes against everything they're supposed to stand for, like sovereignty, etc. And with Gaza saying he's going to turn it into a Riviera. He's going to have casinos, going to have, you know, titty bars, girls dancing on the bar, drinking beer. I'm like, oh my God. And like, what's been a bit weird is first of all, the people on the right defending this shit, but also I haven't seen too much in the way of protests. Where's all the protest, Alex? Where is everyone? Where is everyone?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? And so to loop that actually back to what you were saying with Tice, when he got his tongue, like he got destroyed by Julia Hart Brewer. I keep wanting to call her
Heartless Brewer.
Is it Heartless?
Heartless.
Hartley. Julia Hartley Brewer. He kept repeating the Trump line, which is somewhat powerful and somewhat weird, which is, I just want peace and I don't want anyone dying. And it's like, okay, that's a good aspiration, but how do you enforce that? Yeah. And what does that mean? And what do you do when someone invades? And that's all I'm getting from the right. They just listen to Trump and they go, well, it works in America, so we'll try it in the UK. And I actually think there's something really nice about that's actually cheered me up this week, despite almost having the world blown up again. I think if Farage goes, that's the end of reform. I think if Trump and Musk go, that's the end of. I mean, Trump. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't see Tice. He keeps doing that. He keeps going out on TV and he'll make an absolute hash of it. And then Farage seems to swoop in to come and fix the problem that Tice has created. Remember when he did it with Jennifer Cassidy, Dr. Cassidy, where he started comparing Northern Ireland with Smarties?
What?
God.
He started.
They're not sending their best.
Mehdi was interviewing him at the Oxford Union and Dr. Cassidy was there. Dr. Cassidy went, what do you think of the situation in Northern Ireland as a social situation? And he started banging on about trade and comparing it to a packet of Smarties, saying if you had a packet of Smarties, the amount of trade over that border is one Smartie. And Mehdi had to then point out, what are you talking about? We're talking about the social implications of Brexit. God.
I dread to think how much that man's education cost.
That's such a point, isn't it? How much has he spent? How is he head of a party?
He's a PSM hire. He's a private school mafia hire.
It's also not a political party. It's just a business, like any other business, like self-appointed.
So I think with Gaza, I mean, yeah, there should be protests going on.
But don't forget, there have been globally, like there have been protests. There have been there have been protests every week since the beginning of this like genocide, right? There have been. I've got friends of mine that bring their kids and they go week after week after week. You know, we saw what happened in America. Now, we saw what happened in America with all the student protests. I don't know if you've seen now that one of the executive orders, I believe it was an executive order, is that if you were participating in those student protests and you are an immigrant, they're looking to deport you. No, they're actually seeking out specifically people who participated in that protest. And I think Trump called them Hamas sympathizers, was it?
Yeah.
Just for people protesting against genocide.
That's wild.
Yep.
But then we are dealing with wild times. I keep being asked by people, because I'm a historian, are we heading in the direction of World War III? And I can only go, there are a lot of signs. I'm not sure what the trigger is, though. Because Israel's been given a blank check. World War I, in part, was caused by a blank check being given to Austria-Hungary by Germany. You've got appeasement, which we talked about at the beginning of this. I mean, the only big difference is the fact there are nuclear weapons. I think there's just such a big deterrent. It just stops people wanting to go that extra step. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why he's picked Ukraine.
Oh, do you know what? Honestly, Alex, I don't know. This is where, Jenny, being totally transparent, I had to take 3 days away from social media. Like, I know we have a laugh about stuff and we take the piss, but if you are as invested as we are, and I'm imagining your viewers are, it's hard. It is hard to sort of just sometimes enjoy the small things when you know what's going on. Like, I'm really having to try and just focus on my immediate at the moment, because it's too much. There is such a thing, and it is called activism burnout. And I feel like a dick saying that, because what do? I just go on TV and I tweet and stuff. But I think we all feel this because, and by the way, I found that tweet, and it was posted by Occupy Democrats, and it says, a conservative says it hasn't happened to me, so I don't care. A liberal says it should never happen to anyone, and that's why I care.
Yeah.
So where does that put Julia Hartley Brewer? Like, there's a conundrum.
There's a bit of nuance there.
I think that we are heading to, this isn't great. Well, obviously, no one thinks that it is, except for the Trump fans, the Tices of the world. But something better might come out of this. Sometimes, in the course of history, there's always going to be a pushback against any kind of movement, and we've had this liberalizing and betterment of our lives, our quality of life, for decades, and this is the pushback against it. There's so many people who don't realize, and this is white privilege here, white, middle-aged, middle class, white privilege. We don't realize how lucky we are. Like, honestly, like the fact that we're born in this country, there are opportunities here, we're not living hand to mouth. Like, and I think it's a natural response to that, to go, oh wow, I don't want anyone to have to live in a bad way. But in the same way that people didn't appreciate what it was like to travel around anywhere but Europe, because they'd only really traveled around Europe, and now suddenly we're a third country, so we're having to queue up to get into the country, and we're having to get a visa, and we're having to get work permits to work there. That's normal. That's what the rest of the world's like. But we were just lulled into this false sense of security. And I thought there was a really great line. It might have been James O'Brien who said it or something, but they were talking about you can't stop fighting. You've got to keep. You can't just go, oh, you get to a point where, hey, we've won gay rights now. We've got gay marriage. No, you're still going to get transphobes out there. You're still going to get lunatics making out that gay people have got something to do with paedophiles, which is what happened on GB News this week. So please complain to GB News about the fact that they equated gay people to paedophiles. Yeah.
There's been a whole heap of Ofcom complaints, right? Not Ofsted.
Ofsted. Well, it was someone who went to a private school who did that, so that should go to Ofsted. Oh no, actually, private schools don't have to be inspected by Ofsted, do they?
No, they do not.
Or follow the national curriculum, or have teachers who are qualified. Just be your mate down the pub.
You're looking
just
shocked,
be your Nazi mate from down the pub.
Did not know. I didn't know that. Every day's a school day. They don't have Ofsted at private schools.
You don't have to. They can choose. They can choose whether they want to. In the new Labour bill that they're bringing in, Labour Party bill, not the new work bill, they're actually trying to stop this, and the Tories are kicking off about it. In fact, Kemi Badenoch in Prime Minister's Questions a couple of weeks ago, she was like, "You want to stop Olympic-winning athletes from teaching in our top schools?" And it's like, well, if they don't have a PGCE, yeah, what? And this is a child safeguarding thing. It's like
the things they're arguing in PMQs. So yesterday, and I'm absolutely no, this is horrifying. You're going to stop laughing. This is horrifying, right?
Okay.
So Kemi Badenoch has got at Keir Starmer because one Palestinian family came through to the UK after their house was destroyed. One family got through on the Ukraine visa scheme somehow. Was it Homes for Ukraine or whatever it is? And Kemi Badenoch threw this at Keir Starmer to basically say, you're being weak on immigration. And rather than go, fuck off, Kemi, like, just also there, one, you're not in a position to talk about this given the figures under your party. And two, it's a Palestinian family looking for refuge after their house was bombed. And they came in under the right to a family life right from the ECHR. Instead, you know what he said? He came back and said that he would work to close down that loophole.
Yeah, it's going to change the law. Well, I think the law should be opened up.
So just can we just for a second between friends here say, okay, what is the difference? We have got Ukrainians. We're going, come here, in you come. Yep. You are welcome. You've had your place, your homes bombed. Palestinians, absolutely not. How did you get through? What is the word there I'm looking for?
Melanin.
Yeah, that's exactly
Pretty much it, isn't it?
Racism.
There's no arguing.
It's pure racism. That's all it is. We should have safe routes for everyone. Anyone who wants to apply to come to the UK as an asylum seeker should be able to from wherever they are in the world. That's the situation we have for people from Hong Kong, for people from Ukraine, the situation that's supposed to be there for people from Afghanistan, but it's not. And that should be the system, in the same way that anyone can apply, anyone from anywhere in the world can apply for a visa to come and work here. It's not like they have to get on a little rickety boat or inflatable dinghy and get across the English Channel in the middle of winter in order to apply for a job here. Do you know what I mean? They don't have to. They can just apply. So why can't we have the same system for asylum seeking? And if we say no, we will have their records, we'll have their photographs, we'll have their fingerprints. We've already said no. We've already done the processing. You don't have to put you in a home for 6 months to do it. Sorry, Marina.
Especially when it is our country that has been sending weapons to Israel to bomb the shit out of their country.
I was going to say a lot of the problems in the world that exist at the moment exist because the British went around the world causing problems everywhere, setting things up to fail for the future.
We could, yes, that I'd agree with that. There's a lot of problems.
Israel included.
we were one of the biggest drug dealers in history, which no one talks about. I think as well that's even affected our mentality. That's why when you listen to a lot of people from abroad talking about our business practices, we're very transactional. And there's an argument to suggest that part of the reason for that was the only way to process the stuff that we were doing, whether that was genocide, wiping out nations, selling drugs, tobacco, for example. When Europeans found out about tobacco and started sending it back into Europe, there were doctors 500 years ago writing papers that said, this is dangerous, do not sell it, to which they ignored it. And you wonder about that mentality that we have in the UK, and when people say, oh, we're stiff upper lip and we're unemotional, as to how much that's actually because of the stuff that we did in the past that enabled us to become super rich, such as selling
interesting
drugs.
Very interesting,
very interesting point.
We had to be detached, we had to be emotionally stunted to be able to basically carry out the atrocities that we did.
And the same is said about the Americans, who had to do the same level of atrocities.
But they're not emotionally detached. They're all like in your face with their feelings.
I
love America. I love America.
I love America. I love Americans. There are just a few million who've got serious issues.
I don't love America. They say aluminium wrong.
Aluminum.
And they say Van Gogh instead of Van Gogh. What's all that about? Van Gogh.
I say Van Gogh. Ooh.
It's Van Gogh.
Oh, no.
It's got a GH at the end of it.
I didn't realise that. Can I just say something good to go back to an earlier point about sort of the despairing? And Graham, I know you said you had hope, and you're right. We are thinking, like, if you compare us to where we were now, like, people aren't getting executed at, the Tower of London, like Lady Jane Grey. I think it was the anniversary yesterday. But we are in a position now which is unprecedented, because this is oligarchy like we've never seen before. And we have got all of the things, all of the tools that we're using right now. We go to work on, we buy our products from, that we derive our entertainment from. Everything is now basically controlled by maybe five men who are all very much aligned with what is quite a right-wing president. And I think that's where it's scary, because back in the days, even when Hitler was coming to power, of course, there was a huge support for him. But the reach that these people have now via social media and all the newspapers and whatever, that's unprecedented. And I think the degree to which they're able to use their algorithms and whatever, and that reach to actually just spread the disinformation that they are and manipulate people to the extent that they will vote against their own best interests. And we are seeing it more so now than ever. Yeah. That is what I think is scary about this time around. We're not barbarians at the moment, but we're somewhere else.
We're definitely somewhere else. Can I offer a bit of hope?
Please.
Within that? Because we're obviously got this podcast. You've got 1 million listeners. There's not much precedent for that in history. There's somewhat. You could go back to the original creation of the printing press and how, like, some towns used to have like 17 newspapers in them, and then that obviously wound down, and over the 90s that got shrunk down. And I'm only talking about media influence. I was reading some stuff about Ford and his influence, and actually Henry Ford has a lot of similarities to Musk in terms of his reach. Like, he had a newspaper that was available within all of his stations.
And he was a Nazi.
And he got awards from Hitler. And I could tell you some shocking stories that we're not going to go into. But I think there's a tiny bit of hope in the fact that I think actually the progressive view is probably bigger than it's ever been before. It's just not big enough. And the right-wing media has a lot more cash to be able to invest and get their voice up. But, we've literally, I started off with a YouTube channel. I've had no funding from anyone. Graham, I think you're the self. Marina, I would assume it's the same. And look how much we've grown without any help. But if you tried this through, let's say, a newspaper in the 80s and 90s, or in the 1900s, it would have been 1,000 times harder to be able to achieve what the three of us have done, which I find quite interesting. I'm not saying it's enough, but I am saying there's a bit more hope now than I would have said back then. And like, maybe I'm just a Mr. Positive, or maybe Valentine's Day.
No, I think you're right.
Today.
But we'll go back to something that we go on about all the time on the Politics Social channel, is We need better comms. Labour need better comms. The Greens need better comms. There was a great chat with Lewis Goodall from the news agents, and they were being asked like why they didn't cover the Greens as much as they covered Refuck, and he said, well, because Refuck are doing stuff. They're in the news. Like, what have the Greens done? You know, they want us to read a report.
Can I make a suggestion? I'll tell you what we need, right? Because it doesn't exist at the moment, sadly. With Lib Dems, it doesn't exist with the Greens, certainly doesn't exist with Labour. One, Labour are not delivering, I think, for the majority of people who maybe lent their support to Labour, feel completely let down by them. But the other thing is, I genuinely think we need a populist left party. Yes. We need personalities. We need people that are not going to speak to people like they are above them. We need people on a level. We need the Nigel Farage of the left. I hate to say it, but we need it. I'm not saying we can't have all the other, like the intellects and whatever, but we need people who speak to people on a level. And I say that after having a conversation with an extended family member that sent me spiraling, because this person said, and they are the son of very liberal, progressive, informed parents, and we were talking about Trump, and he said, yeah, but he just says it how it is. And I just thought, I know my heart broke, and I just thought, oh my God, I had head in hands. And I just thought, he's speaking to them. And the one thing he could say to me, because he's not buried in the news, he doesn't know about the executive orders and US aid, he doesn't know any of that. But you know what he does know? He knows that Trump has banned trans women from playing in women's
all 10 of them out of 500,000.
All 10 of them, 10 people. And he knows that, and he was like, well, that pissed me off, so I'm glad he's done that. And I was like, sorry, what? And I just think we need someone who is going to be clever enough. We need a party that's going to be clever enough to give something quick and meaningful and low-hanging fruit to the people who just need to feel it, see it instantly.
I agree. I think the problem is that the crossover of people who have got Riz, you know, charismatic.
So it is, Riz.
Yeah, I think the crossover with them and politics is not a big catchment area, because politics tends to, and I'm sorry to offend anyone who's watching this, I study politics at uni, and obviously I have a politics channel called Politics Social, so I'm saying this is, you know, on behalf of me and everyone else. We're a bit weird. We're a little bit odd compared with other people who aren't that interested in politics, or at least they see us as being a bit odd. And the politicians I've ever met, I mean, I've met lots of nice politicians, but I wouldn't necessarily want them coming to my birthday party. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Oh, he's a laugh. This is the thing. Marina's right. We need someone who can have that thing of like, oh, I'll go for a drink with them.
It's like Boris Johnson. It's the Boris Johnson appeal. They'd have a chat with him. They think he's funny. Like, it's the same with Trump. They think he's entertaining. Like, we've entered an era now where people just want to be entertained. It's like, oh, that's funny. Oh, he's funny. I'll put him in pay. He'll fuck things up a bit, especially when people are being disenfranchised. You saw that poll that came out. I know it was a misleading poll, but that poll basically said there was a whole next gen, sort of younger generation that were polled who said they would be in favor of a dictator. And I think it's because they're so disenfranchised that they're just like, yeah, change without just something different, without knowing what it means.
Well, one of the things that caused World War II and World War II.
Back to war.
Back to war was, but it was the economic downturn that took place. You had two recessions. You had one immediately after World War One, and then you had and the Wall Street crash, and then you had one just before Hitler came into power. So you had this extended period of economic downturn. When the second point turned up, that's when people really went authoritarian. And we've had something similar that's never been really fixed or addressed. So you had the 2008 crash, which from what I can tell is basically the banks lied about mortgages and issued mortgages to anyone that would take, instead of doing checks, deregulation. And that crashed the economy. Then for the UK, you had Brexit, which damaged the economy. But again, no one really wants to talk about that in the main political parties. And then after that, you've got the war in Ukraine, which damaged the global economy, and Trump's tariffs.
Which
so you look at all those downturns, and you're just like, I don't even really feel that. Oh, and COVID, of course, because that meant there were less products because manufacturing shut down, and they printed a ton of money, which is exactly what happened in the build-up to World War II.
The billionaires did quite well
after World War One.
The billionaires did quite well out of COVID, though, didn't they, Alex?
Who?
Billionaires. The billionaires made loads of money.
They did well. It's interesting you say that, because they did well after World War One. Because when you have that amount, when you have that hyperinflation, which is arguably what we have, you can pay off your debts for fuck all.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. So if you actually had capital and you had land or resources available to you, you could pay off that debt really easily. There are talks about people being paid in Germany. This is because they had it exceptionally bad after World War One. They were carrying around wheelbarrows full of cash to pay bills or buy food. That's insane. But if you've got that and you had a debt before that inflation, you're sorted. Your debt's gone. So as soon as the economy snaps back on, and that's why I think there's a lot of similarities here. And it was the rich people in Germany, a large number of rich people that backed Hitler.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the same thing with Trump. And they all know they got a tax discount after when Trump came in. And so that's why they've all ended up backing him, even though he's totally insane. I've got to ask Marina, when you spoke to this extended relative of yours, did you press them at all as to why they thought Trump was congruent in what he was saying? Like, he talked it as it is. He says it as it is. Or did you leave it?
I didn't leave it. I didn't leave it. I tried to what did I say to him? I was like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? He just says it like it is. And what I'm taking from that is his messaging is simple, right? So if we look at Keir Starmer, for example, as a comparison, Keir Starmer and other politicians talk in the abstract. They talk about growth. They talk about GDP. They talk about blah, 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 like long-term visions and strategies and all this shit that people don't understand. Like, they don't understand the final impact or how it's not of interest to them. Trump speaks with sound bites that will be personally relevant to you or will personally impact your life. Cheaper eggs. There you go. Yeah. Cheaper gas. Trans
plastic
people out
straws.
of sports. Plastic straws. Yeah. Really, it's very, very simple. Also, Nigel Farage, very good at this as well. Focuses on 5 things, like reform had a 5-point plan, very clear. All of those things, they weren't big visions. They were tactical. It was about lowering the tax threshold. It was stop the boats. And I'm really sorry, but we are dumbed down. The majority of people do not have the time to invest themselves into politics. We need to make it as simple as possible. It needs to be the Let's guide to politics. And the manifesto of the new left-wing party, if there was going to be one, needs to be that bloody simple. 5 things that's going to impact you, Graham, you at home, you, Bob and Bolton, you. How are you going to feel? Like growth, GDP, don't give a fuck. Doesn't. If you wanted to borrow, like the US government are going to spend $4 trillion more, right? They don't care. Even though it's going to send debt spiraling, they don't care. Just as long as there is something that impacts me, my pocket, my little life.
Yeah, cheaper food. Yeah, I mean, that's the Brexit slide, wasn't it?
Yeah, it'd be good if we could infiltrate Labour and take them over and make them do this ourselves. I mean, they're not delivering. And one of the things that I often talk about as well on the channel is the fact that most people aren't into politics, right? Not just that the people who are really, really into politics are a little bit of the outlier. But in the last US election, it was 1% difference at the end of the day between Kamala Harris and Trump. If 1% of the population or 1% of the voters had voted the other way, Kamala Harris would have won it. And you think about, you have 100 people in a room and they've all got to make a decision. And one of them, just one in 100 votes for the person whose name they've heard of, because they pay no attention to politics. They pay no attention to any of this stuff. It is just name recognition. And that's where people like Farage do really well, because people recognize his name. He's been in politics for over 20 years now. He's obviously because of Brexit and everything else, people know his name, becomes a household name. And it's one of the reasons why when we talk about bringing in compulsory voting, I'm the dissenting voice in that, saying they have it in Australia. And if 1% of people vote for just the name that they've heard, they might end up voting for a Nazi or just someone who's not very good. So I'd rather people were informed who were voting. But I think you're right, Marina, making the messages as simple as possible. And having 5 points, but one of them is free parking on a Sunday. Just something that is immediate. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I think Labour made in the last budget was putting up the price of bus fares. This affects people like me who get the bus into town. It's gone up by 50p or a quid for a round journey, right? And I'm seeing that every day now.
Yeah.
And everyone else who gets the bus is seeing it every time they get the bus. And that's a really obvious thing to me. Whereas a third runway at Heathrow, the investment in the steelworks in Port Talbot, I don't actually see that every day. You know, they can claim they're going to do stuff down the line, but that's not affecting me day to day. This has affected me already, and I've seen it, and it's irritated me. So, yeah, whoever's advising Labour at the moment needs to be put on a sabbatical, I think.
Agree.
It made me think of Nico Milana there, where one of his campaign pledges was to make Freddo's 10p.
Yeah.
Just put
something in there. But also, I work in marketing, right? From a PR standpoint, bang on. It's just going to be something that people can just like. You can create a whole social campaign out of it. It's fun. It's funny. You might even get Freddo sponsoring you. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just a great idea for a bit of social traction or whatever it was that people want. You know. Well, we don't know. Labour doesn't have that. It's like it's just so stale. It's so fucking stale and boring. And the thing is, Labour are actually doing some good stuff. Right in the background, they're actually doing some of it is atrocious. Like I think their lack of balls when it comes to actually taxing the uber wealthy is dispiriting as hell. But they are doing some good stuff, but it's not enough. It's not enough when you've got reform breathing down your neck, and it's not enough if people are not going to feel a material difference. Do you feel materially different to when the Conservatives were in power? Right, I know I feel less angry. I'm less like there's not corruption on the front pages every day. But do we feel? Do people we love? Do the less well off? Do they feel materially better? No, they don't.
No,
not even hopeful.
I'll give you a history stat, but I'll also say I know all the fruit and veg guys on my street. There's about 4 or 5 of them. They're now telling me that they're getting more loose change than they've ever had before, and they reckon that people are going behind their sofas to get cash out. Because they're so short of cash around there. And that's where the history stat comes in. French Revolution, one of the biggest events in Western history to take place and sort of replant democracy in its own way, although it went back to dictatorship. The lowest third of people in the UK have 100 calories more than the poorest in the French Revolution.
Wow.
100 calories a day more. And you're like, that's not being addressed. Nothing seems to be syncing up. And I still then go back. I don't even think Labour see the bigger picture. Gary Stevenson keeps talking about it. How do you check the economy? You go out on the street and you just I talk to I know Marina, I'll finish.
It's so good. I was about to say the same thing, but you carry on.
Am I on? Are we on the
Gary?
Are we having a new
Gary? Yes, we are. Inequality. That's the word.
Yes. I mean, the inequality is skyrocketing. It's continuing to grow, and it's been left over from COVID. Gary keeps bringing it up, and you look at when he brings it up to them on those political shows. You just see this. It's like the question mark from Super Mario goes right on the top of their head, and they just don't seem to understand what he's saying, which is really fucking simple. You had less goods being made, and you printed a ton of money, and you don't know where that money's gone. Why would you print that money and not register it? And then, are you actually going out and asking people on the street, friends, family, how they're financially doing, especially if they're on a low wage? I don't believe they are.
They're not.
I even said that to, I won't name her name, but the MP I ran against. I said to her, you're going to come back in 2 years. We're not even in 2 years. We're 7 months? Yeah. And we're already seeing the effects of Labour not being able to do their task. I said 2 years. I was wrong. I wasn't far off. Go on, Marina. What were you?
I was going to say it's Gary Stevenson who's Gary's Economics. If you follow him on social, who's bloody brilliant to follow. He points out, we keep being told the UK has got a productivity issue, which is bollocks. Because if we had a productivity issue, the wealthy wouldn't keep getting more and more and more wealthy. Yeah. The fact is, we're all very productive. My productivity has actually gone up. Is yours, Alex Graham, up? Yeah. I think we're working longer hours than ever before.
I am. Work every day.
We all are. So it's
I worked on Christmas Day.
And many did. But productivity is not the issue. Inequality is the issue. We are working longer and harder. There is a ratio figure where it basically shows that the CEO earnings, what they used to be, it's like insane. It's grown by 3,000% or something like that. Whereas employee earnings have grown by something like 18%. Like that over 40 years. because it's all that money is just so concentrated at the top of the chain. You look at all the CEOs across all of our utility businesses and banks. I think I just saw the Lloyd's CEO. His salary went from like 4 million to 10. I think it was Lloyd's. Like, how can you justify that? Oh, well, actually, I know how we can justify that, because has the interest in your mortgage gone up if you've got one? Mine is. Yeah, everyone's like. What did the banks do? Did they provide a better service? Did they provide a better service for that? No. Same. Well, where's that windfall tax on the frigging banks? Maggie Thatcher did it, for fuck's sake.
And you've tapped into something there, the big lie, privatization. We have got one of the most privatized countries in the world, which has done really, really bad things to this country. There was a great episode of TLDR did this week about the fact that Britain is nearly bankrupt when it comes in terms of like, what does the government actually own anymore? Because we're one of the few countries that made water privatized. Now all rivers are all full of shit.
The only country.
And we've had an energy bill. Like, we don't have the heating on in this house during the day. The girls aren't here, and me and Kat, we both work in the house, and we literally put a coat on and work because it's so expensive. There you go. It's like we can't put the central heating on. It's too expensive to put the central heating on. And this is the result of privatization. This is the result of someone somewhere needing to make money at every step of the way. And it's ruined our country. It's absolutely ruined our country. And the other thing, tapping into that as well, and I think you mentioned about housing, about, your mortgages going up. We used to have a system where if you went into a bank and you said to the bank manager, hey, listen, I've already got a home, but you know what? Can I have a mortgage so I can get another one? Put someone else in it and they can pay the mortgage. The bank manager say, no, that's illegal, go away. And in the mid-90s, the Tory government did away with that so you could get a buy-to-let mortgage. And that absolutely destroyed our housing system in this country, along with the fact that, up till 1979, 5 million houses were built. And since I've been alive, so 46 years at the end of the month, we've built, 250,000 council houses have been built. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And I think we need to just address that fact. We need to go, look, someone doesn't have to make money at every step of the journey, especially when the journey is a fucking cancer journey, or it's a child getting some fresh water that's not contaminated with shit.
And the unfortunate thing is, you've obviously got parties that are advocating that. That's what deregulation is.
Yeah, deregulation.
Voting for it
the nation
because they somehow think that they're going to win the lottery.
But how have they convinced? Again, I go to Bob and Bolton. How have they convinced Bob and Bolton that deregulation is a good thing? It's genius. Absolutely
great
genius.
comms, marketing, great comms.
Yeah.
We've got shit comms on the left. Labour, shit. Lib Dem, shit.
It's that with the it's Boris Johnson with the kipper. Do you remember the kipper with the ice cushion? Do you remember that? Deregulate. Oh God, I despair.
But it gets through to people. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Get through to people and do things that people see in everyday life.
Maybe we get like a Danny Dyer, and he can be like our populist left person.
He'd do
What do you reckon? I reckon so.
Problem is,
do you think he'd be tempted though, or do you think it'd be?
Do you know what? He expressed an interest in coming on the Trawl. We've got to follow it up. But I would love it. Love it.
His comment about fucking great. His comment about what was it?
David Cameron.
Twat. David Cameron.
With his trotters up.
With his trotters up.
So what's happened to that twat David Cameron who called it on? Let's be fair.
I think you're referring to our former Prime Minister.
Yeah, but how comes he can scuttle off? He called all this on.
Yeah.
Yeah?
He has no regrets.
Where is he? He's in Europe, in Nice, with his trotters up. Yeah? Where is the geezer? I think he should be held accountable for it. He should be held accountable for it.
It's a valid point. A lot of people do feel that...
On that note, thank you very much to my guest, Marina. Thank you very much to my co-host, Graham. What a fantastic episode. Please check the description to see their links and go and check out the Trawl. Go and check out Politics Social. And if you've enjoyed the video, which I assume you have by getting this far, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.
It's Valentine's Day. Love, marry, send to Mars. Marina, your three choices: Rishi Sunak, Nigel Farage, David Tennant.
Why did you do this?
Oh, okay. I would love David Tennant. I would marry Rishi Sunak, and I would send Farage to Mars.
Because sometimes on this we go, oh no, like, well, yeah. Go on. Which tragedies are you going to give me?
Rachel Riley.
Okay.
Donald Trump. Suella Braverman.
Okay. Okay. Oh my God. We can get divorced, right? This isn't a marriage for life. So
no,
Rachel Riley.
We're saying it's a marriage for life. Marina, you're stuck with seeing that forever.
No.
It's got David Tennant on the side.
I love Rachel Riley. I'll marry Braverman and then divorce her and take all their money. And then Trump's got to go to Mars with Elon Musk on a big rocket ship, one-way trip to Mars.
Absolutely.
And then they'll find out how cold it is there and how there's no protection against the solar wind.
So socialism isn't a bad thing.
Slow, agonizing deaths.
Final thing. Twilight Zone sort of scenario for you. Marina, you're going to suffer Groundhog Day, but you got to pick who you're going to have that Groundhog Day with.
Okay.
You're going to either co-host with Nigel Farage, and the more you argue, the more likely it is to reset the day, so you're back to where you started.
I've thought about this way too much.
This is like an episode of The Black Mirror.
Yes. Or Piers Morgan.
Piers. I would choose Piers.
You think you could handle that a bit better than
Yeah, I think
Frogman?
I think I could, and also I think Frogman. I think he looks like he just stinks of fags. So I just no.
Graham.
God.
All future holidays are going to involve either you with Suella Braverman at Butlins.
What's this obsession with Suella Braverman?
Or your holidays will have you in a road trip with Musk in a Tesla.
Well, given the fact that Teslas often malfunction and crash and burn up and are terrible cars, terrible Nazi cars, swastika cars even, I'll go on the road trip. And I'll take Musk around West Africa, and he can see look into the eyes of all the babies that he's decided to condemn to death by being the most horrible man that's ever lived.
I honestly don't think he'd care, Graham. I don't know if you saw that review of when he went to when Elon went to Auschwitz.
Yeah, he couldn't give a stuff.
He just couldn't give a shit.
Okay.
When will the lesson be learned? When will the lesson be learned? How many more dictators must be wooed, appeased, good God, given him mixed privileges before we learn? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!